Okay, going for a take.
What?
I'm jealous.
Okay, yeah, take two. So back onto us. So yeah, we're just gonna be interviewing each other and kind of just having a little conversation, catching up with each other mid-season.
Yeah.
Not like we don't talk outside of this. We don't really try not
really.
to spend as much
Yeah,
time.
I hate
with
these
each other as
guys.
we can.
I get paid to sit in this seat, and they
You get paid?
no,
Oh.
not yet.
God no.
I mean, I pay myself.
How do you pay yourself?
Is this appropriate for YouTube?
I give myself pocket money for the podcast.
Okay, so on that
Oh
note,
man,
Matt,
I don't know what you put up in this peppermint tea, man.
I need my
Too much pepper.
right. Let's go again.
No, let's keep this.
You want to
in.
keep it
Let's
going?
keep the chaos.
Okay, right. Okay.
Okay.
The chaos of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna
It's as
say
if
it
Tim Burton's directing this second half.
every time, innit? So, a question I wanted to ask you guys, whilst this chat's about us, because we don't have a guest. If you've not seen part one, we explain that, so you might as well check that out.
That's nicely done.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Watching that film and watching any film, what do you think is good acting?
When you're not acting.
Have you seen the Have you seen the interview that Michael Caine did when he was like, a good rehearsal is a rehearsal where the director comes over and was like, sorry to stop your rehearsal, where he doesn't do that, and he does the opposite and be like, sorry to interrupt you guys, where it's like you don't even know they're rehearsing because it's not acting, it's good quality work.
I get you. Yeah, I guess recently I think it comes down to everyone's tastes. There's rules, again, when we're talking about boxes as well, putting boxes as what good acting is. Obviously, the acting needs to change depending on the tone of the piece. Like we're saying, Justin 3 was so over the top, and Beetlejuice but was freaking hilarious. He was so good in it. My taste is I like people that take risks. I like people that push it as far as they possibly can, and sometimes fall on their face and then sometimes fly. Like one of my favorite actors is Christian Bale. Always, you'd be like, is he overacting right now? Because everyone else is so like just composed and put together, and then he's doing all these things, all these face things, these big accents and everything, big characters. He plays big characters. I rate anyone that has the guts to do that and know that it could go too far. That's when I guess you got to have trust in your director and the team around you to know that, okay, well, I feel like I'm out in dangerous water right now. I don't know. I'm like, my feet can't touch the shore. I'm just like treading water. As long as you know that everyone around you is like, we're good. It's good. Like, you're okay. I like those actors. Jake Gyllenhaal. I read an interview with James McAvoy the other day where he was talking about how he used to get booed off stage, and he's just got used to the fact that sometimes people won't like the work he does.
He used to get booed off stage.
Yeah.
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
At the theatre. Which theatre?
I don't know. He didn't say specifically. I imagine at the start of his career.
Right. Wow.
I don't think anyone would boo James McAvoy off stage now.
No.
Imagine they'd be the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, dude?
I think phenomenal acting is, like Adam said, when you don't know they're acting, when it's so real that you're scared for what the other character is gonna face. And for me, like when I'm acting, like not knowing what the other person's gonna do, like when you're listening and trying to affect someone, and they're affecting you, and it feels like this isn't the scene. It's just we're having a conversation that's escalating, or whatever the context is. Like that to me is good acting, because it's not acting anymore.
It's an opportunity and an excuse to let loose and like show different sides of who you are, you know. As a man, you're told a lot to keep your emotions in check and to always put on a stoic face. But then when you're in acting and you're doing, you know, emotional scenes and stuff, it's therapeutic to finally let all of that out and you're doing it in an artistic, creative environment as well. That's what I really enjoy, and I think that's what makes great acting, when you're essentially speaking the truth, no matter what you're doing it as, whether you're on stage or in soap or in a drama or a big film. As long as you truly make those words your own, make that character you, and just trust in yourself and your scene partner and believe what you're saying and doing, then that's all that I think.
Are there times when you've been on Corrie, like particular scenes that stood out as, I know for me when I've been acting, sometimes it's kind of like, okay, that didn't quite land how I thought it might land, or there's a quote Austin Butler says where it's like everything conspires against authenticity. Kind of feels like that sometimes. And then there's like the gold dust. You enter into this like state of flow. You let loose. The constraints that everyone puts on themselves just like fall to the floor, and you're just free. You just trust each other and you just go for it. And that's insane. It happens rarely, I would say. Generally, when you just like, for a second, you're like, wait, what just happened? It's almost like you forget. It's not that you forget in the moment, but after it, I think I've said this to you guys before, I'd find that when I don't know how I've done or what I've done, it's usually better.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm fully aware, Matt's aware of what's going on right now, and analysing and judging each moment and choice that I'm making, less so, it's less genuine. But yeah, are there any... Sorry, I realised I hadn't actually asked you the question. Yeah. Are there times for both of you guys where you've been on set acting where it's been like that gold dust of like free flow?
Yeah, a couple of times. It depends on the scene, and like, sometimes you just get so immersed into it that it goes by in a blur. Yeah. And then you're like, what just happened? And you're like, was that good? And then you start panicking. And people are like, yeah, that was like really cool. And you're like, are you sure? Yeah. And then other times where you're doing it, and then you feel like, because you've got it pre-planned how you're going to play the scene, aren't you? And then you're like, yeah, I think I did that really well. And then director's like,
they're like,
no, could you try it this way instead, please? And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. Huh. And then they're like, yeah, that was really, really good. Once you do it that way, and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna have to trust you.
I think as well, like when instinct takes over, and when as it should take over, you don't really have enough time to think about how well it went. And like you were saying, like during a lot of theatre when I was younger, there'd be times where I'm like, yeah, man, that was sick. And then I'd get some feedback and I'd be like, oh, I'd just be like, oh no, yeah. So now my gut's like, if I think I don't want to feel like I know what I've done after, because you shouldn't, because you don't really know instantly when you've had a crisis or whatever in your life has happened. You don't know instantly what's happened. You sort of have to like reflect. So when you watch back your work and you then realize, oh, that's actually what it is. That's more interesting.
I think no matter what you're doing, no matter what scene, you should strive to get into that mental place where you become so immersed into it, where you stop caring about what people think or what their opinion is. You know what you're doing. You trust yourself, and you're like, and you just enter that state where you just, let loose with it.
There's a kind of like meditative quality to it.
Yeah.
Even when we were just like, I was listening to you then, and I realized I was just like fully focused on you, and then periphery vision came in, and I was aware of Max and the cameras and the mics and Ben, and I was like, oh, cool. I just like fully connected with you, just
by listening.
Yeah. And I think it's such a beautiful way to practice that day to day. That's something that I want to work on, particularly, in gigs and stuff, is you have to be aware of all the technicalities. Matt has to be like 50% aware or 40% or whatever sort of percentage is useful for that scene, of like, okay, when you put your bag down, you need to put it back down like this. This is hitting and the sound guys don't like it. The costumes guys say you need to do this. Director says you need to do this. You need to clock this line, even though I'm deaf and I can't hear the line that the other person's saying. There's so many technicalities that I almost said the character's name then, that whoever I'm playing. Close one. Spoilers. Whoever I'm playing wouldn't be thinking about. So it's like finding that balance. And how do you guys find that balance when you're working?
I think then, like we were talking about instinct, that takes over in the sense that you get all this information and you might not remember all of it on the your conscious level, but I feel like everything goes into your subconscious,
and it becomes like a sort of reflex.
Yeah.
You know, you by reflex you're aware of the camera, you're aware of what needs to be done, and it's all about sort of just finding the balance between the two.
And when you've got all these instructions been given to you as well, once you have these reflexes, which can take a few takes or whatever to do, then it just becomes like a flow. And when it becomes a flow, then that's when your best work is, because it's a flow. And that's what, like, it's like you were saying, like a meditative, if that's the word, state of you're not thinking, you're just doing. And doing is the essence of acting.
What are you guys like in terms of like where you are both with your career? What's like the perspectives that you have on it in terms of like what's next, how you're approaching acting?
I think I've always, like, whenever anyone asks me what projects, like what will be my dream role, I always say the same thing, which is, it's not like there are certain characters which really interest me, but it's more about the project. If I think to myself, I look at a project and I think, I don't know if I can do that, that makes me want to do it, because I'm going to learn something. If I look at a project and go like, I know exactly how I'm going to do this, then what am I going to get out of it? Like, it's not, I'm not going to learn anything. And for me, I constantly want to learn and be the best that I can. And so if a script came to me and I was like, oh, this is a phenomenal script and I really think I can do something, but I don't know how, then
can I just ask, where do you think that comes from? I feel like all three of us have that. Where do you think that comes from for each of us, that need to be the best that you possibly can be?
Well, nobody wants to be shit, do they?
Whatever
it is, you know.
Yeah. Some people are easier not choosing the hard work and the harder road and the path less trod. Because they've got other things that they want to focus on. It's just different priorities.
I think it comes down to fear and bravery. You know, I think we're all capable of achieving that level. We just have to be brave enough to go for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like, it all depends. Like, for me, like for all of us really, whatever we've been through in our lives, that kind of like helps give you ammunition. And I would never want to watch something on TV that I'm in and be like, God, I wasted that. I always want to know that if I've done something, I know I've given everything to it, because you can't get that time back. But how about yourself, Matt? How do you go about that?
I've forgotten the question that I asked, to be fair.
Why do you work so hard, basically?
I actually really don't know. I think it was instilled into me through my parents. A recurring message from them was always just do your best. Just do your best, no matter what. It was less about grades. Like, they were never really fussed about that. I don't really know why or where that came from, because I didn't get pressure from the outside to be fussed about that. I always wanted to go for the harder school to get in, to get the harder grade. And
was it to make your
if
parents?
I fell on my face, it broke me, and then I built myself back up. And I've always been like that. And it's interesting thinking about that, because Waterloo Road's coming out tomorrow. This obviously will be released this Friday, so it will have been out for a few days. I can't talk about the story because, I just can't talk about it just yet. But that fear of, okay, with acting, there's less that you can control. You really don't control much at all. You have the sound guy, you have the editor, you have the DOP, you have the director, you also have the producers. You have so many people that take percentages out of what you've controlled in the work that you've done, that actually you can worry about it so much and have so much fear, which is driving you forward. But actually, all you really control is maybe like 20% of what gets seen by the audience. I'd say maybe the audience will attribute any success or failure to you because you're the face of that. But in actuality, I've learned that sometimes the harder choice for me is actually working a bit less. Because it's almost like I analyze and judge so much of what I do that in actuality, it will be harder for me to let go of that and trust and use instincts and play. And, you know, preparing for Jared and other characters that I played, loads of light analysis, loads of script work, loads of detective work, loads of just thinking about it 24/7 on a loop, to the point that it affects relationships and it affects connecting with other people. There's a benefit to it. There's a benefit to anxiety. There's a benefit to using that fear. But I think what I'm actually realizing now is that the harder choice for me is to not work less, be more efficient with it, I guess.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, pretty much. And trust yourself. I think that using your brain can be a protective mechanism, a coping mechanism for being scared of failing, of feeling. So sometimes I've realized when I'm going to start approaching characters is more like, how are they feeling as opposed to how are they thinking?
Yeah.
How are they feeling and why they're feeling?
Yeah, I'm being very careful with what I say.
Yeah.
Might have to watch this back. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Sometimes the harder choice is to not put any more work in and trust that you've got it.
And I relate to you so much with that, because something as I've developed as a person has been that actually sometimes less is more. Sometimes you don't need to do all of these things to feel like you're being productive. Sometimes the best thing you can do is do the basics well, and then trust yourself enough that all the work you've done is going to come through subconsciously, and that you don't, like, I used to have to write everything on a script to the point where the white on the page physically would be, there'd just be ink, because I just write and write and write. And then I realized that actually, why? Like, writing it down, great. I did it because it made me feel like I was doing more work. But actually, once I've had that thought is there, and it goes into your subconscious. And then when you're on set or in theatre or whatever, it's already there, backed up, and your brain uses it to whenever it needs to. So sometimes I'll have a thought and I'll go, actually, I don't need to write that down. I'll just let that be, and just let these thoughts be. And just when I'm then on set, make sure my attention is there. I don't like using my phone much at all. I think it's such a distraction, and I'm just really against it. And just giving my attention, and, you know, I think most of the work is in the prep, but then once you've done that, you just have to let it go.
Yeah.
Like you can't bring that with you. You've just got to leave it and hope that it comes through, when it does every time.
I think as we get older, we sort of lose our imagination and our childlike creativity. And I think it's important to always have that, keep it nourished through whatever means you'd have to do to keep it young and fresh. But yeah, but like I think as we get older, though, we also learn more about life, about people, about ourselves. And I guess there's like pros and cons to everything. We just have to remember to stay childlike and creative and free, but also to learn from our past and from our mistakes as well.
What were you guys like as kids? Like in the playground, playing with swords or guns or whatever?
I used to play pretend
Pokemon cards
all the time. In primary school, we'd play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards as well. But I remember on the last day of primary school when we were leaving, me and my friends shot like a little zombie film on our little phone. And it was like, we'd play like, it's like Tiggy Family, but whoever gets tagged.
Sorry, what was it called?
Tiggy Family.
Tiggy Family?
Oh man,
No.
I
nostalgia.
love that every like school had a different name for it.
Yeah.
Tiggy
Tiggy
virus.
Family's the best
Tiggy
one ever.
Family.
That was Tiggy virus, right?
So it's like, if you get tagged, you turn into a zombie.
Family.
But like,
Did you say Tiggy family or Tiggy zombie?
Tiggy Family, but like zombie style.
Oh, mad, mad.
So the
Yeah.
people, like the kids
We called it
chasing
Tiggy
us, had to
virus.
acted like zombies as well.
Yeah.
It was we were crazy, weird kids, and we'd get bullied a lot because of it. But I didn't care because it was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that seems to be a running theme across a lot of different people that I meet within the creative industry. Is that outcasts, people on the outskirts,
Yeah,
and then you find your tribe at some point later on.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was drama school, not drama school. So like college,
Yeah,
young company, theatre company, after school club at the theatre. They were my tribe.
Yeah, I think I found my tribe quite late. I mean, I'm only 20 now, but like, I didn't find my tribe until relatively recently in my life.
Were you creative as a kid as well?
Yeah, I mean, like without going too like deep into my childhood, when in primary school, like I didn't really have anyone, so and I got severely bullied, so I wasn't allowed out at break and lunchtime, and what the way that they dealt with it was I'd stay in the classroom for the break and lunchtime. My teacher bought this app on the iPad, which was a green screen projector, and he bought me a green screen, and I used to just by myself just make loads of mini films and just be all these characters, and that's really for me what helped like start the journey that I'm on as an actor, of really understanding the craft and being the best that I can be, because it was all about playing and escaping, and like we talked about in terms of cinema in the last episode, like there was that, and then going to watching films all the time just to really just escape life, because life wasn't great, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, but yeah, how about yourself?
again, I've forgotten the original question. I asked.
What were you like as a child, like in like school?
Oh right, yeah. I know it's really tricky. I think memories are such untangible things. Like they're not facts, they're narratives. You know, I'll speak to my mom about something that happened in the past. I feel like I might have said this recently in maybe another episode. And she'll have a different take on what actually happened. I'll be like, no, that's not how it happened. This happened, then this happened. She's like, I wrote it in my diary. I know it. And I'm like, oh, really? So it's always interesting thinking about our interpretation of our past, which also gives us the ability to change our interpretation of the events that happened to us, the shit that happened to us, and then rewrite it in a way where actually we were just trying to help ourselves, and the only way we could do it was through an unhealthy coping mechanism or whatever. Again, not to get too deep, maybe in a later podcast. But recently I found out that actually, because I'd always had the narrative that I was the shy kid, that I was the hide behind my mum, don't want to go up to the teacher kind of kid, that my sister's the performer. She's an amazing performer, does a lot more theatre, and I was always quite intellectual. I liked analysing stuff, Lego and building stuff as well, all that kind of cool stuff. But also loved stories. And then I was going to be a doctor, and then eventually I decided to be an actor. The narrative I tell myself about that is changing because you just listen to different people's perspectives. Jenna Ortega, watching her interview, she's like, I analyse everything. I look at every possible angle on every possible thing. It's like, oh, cool. Okay, other actors do it. You get told boxes that only artists think in this way. They think outside. Whatever. It's just bullshit. It's just bullshit to make people feel like they can't do something. You know, even as we talk, I'm aware that as we say things, we should probably say it can be, or it's a potential. This isn't the only way. Because anyone that listening to this, if they're anxious about something, they go, oh, I guess I can't be an actor then. Well, actually, no. You can approach it in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to do it in a certain kind of way just because everyone else, that's the orthodox traditional way that the industry is in currently right now. To go back to your question, I learned that actually my sister went and watched some family videos recently, and I was the performer first. Apparently, like in all these videos, I'm the one like dancing in front of the camera, like shaking my little tush like to Top of the Pops, and just singing and jumping off the sofa and doing like little like ninja moves and swinging my katana around. And
You have a
yeah,
katana?
I had a
Oh,
yo,
wow.
I had a Darth Maul mask, cloak, and a katana. I also had a cowboy hat. We had a fancy dress box as we were growing up. I think I was very fortunate with the imagination that was instilled into us, and obviously loved stories. I remember getting told off because I'd stay up when my parents went out under the covers with my torch, just reading like series of unfortunate events.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a like tangible memory in my
Yeah.
head.
I used to do the same. I used to stay up under the quilts with a PSP and used to have Bad Boys 1 and 2.
Oh,
in
Will
the,
Smith and that.
Yeah. So I used to watch those under the covers.
Yeah.
And when they come in, pretend to go to sleep.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And then just carry on.
Yeah, no, I think, but all of these things, talking about them and listening about them as well, there's a childlike essence to it, but there's also like a nature to it. Like it's something that's you've grown with, and it doesn't really grow out of you. And I feel like for a lot of people, it doesn't grow out, and a lot of people work jobs that they don't like, and that play is still there, but it's suppressed. And I think the privilege that we get as actors is to bring that out and keep that alive, keep that flame alive, because I think for me, like life, if I took on a different job that wasn't in the creative industry, oh man, it would be so boring for me.
Yeah.
I feel like
Draining.
I feel like that's why a lot of actors can come off as quite immature and whatnot, because we're like kids, we're playing pretend, and
Yeah.
But I feel like everyone's immature, and other people can just they suppress it down. Like I remember there's like
so they're acting.
exactly, and there are nights out or like events, and you see people like when they're nervous and stuff, they're quite like stiff and they don't really know how to chat to anybody. But at the end of the night, they're on tables, and I'm like, that's the real you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's the kid that is still
the-
inside.
That's the kid that you've suppressed, that you're letting out at the end of the night because you feel comfortable. And like we were saying earlier in part one, it's like the director's job is to like for me to make me feel comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you play
Yeah.
like a kid.
Just to wrap this up, because I'm aware of time, it'd be nice to bring it back to the podcast. Like, how do you think it's shaped you? Obviously, 6 months doing it now, it's doing really well. It's exciting to see the traction that we're getting. People responding to material.
Yeah.
And what have you guys learned from it? What's been your take?
I think me personally, it's helped me become a whole lot more conversational. You know, I used to be quite socially awkward, but now I'm comfortable enough to just start having conversations with people, and that's just by simply just listening to them. And people love it when you listen to them. So I'd be making friends left, right, and center as well. So I feel like it's developed me as a person, and also as an actor as well, from all the stuff that we learn and the people that we bring onto it.
Any standouts? Any lessons that you've learned from different like advice that people have given?
To basically trust yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and that it's not about you. It's about the project,
Being
the
in
story.
service of it.
Yeah, being in service to this story that you're telling these people, why you're telling the people this story.
Yeah. For me, I think this podcast has been amazing so far, and the thing that I've learned a lot from is like why we did it in the first place, is to have interesting conversations with people and have the privilege to learn from other people and just listen and chat and really delve deep into ideas which you don't get the opportunity to that often. Having 2 hours of just chatting it's nice, and I think obviously, like you were saying, like conversationally it's been a very big help, but it's also been nice because this year has been quite quiet in the industry, so there's been less projects, there's been less work to work on, So having this as a platform to be creative and to learn from, whilst I've not been on set too much this year, has been nice, and to trust that, you know, when I watch these back, sometimes I think like, oh, maybe the point I said wasn't that interesting, and I watch it back and I'm like, oh, the whole conversation was really interesting. I just was thinking too much.
It's the narrative that you're telling yourself at that time as you're judging yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself though?
Just quickly. Again, trust. It comes back to trust, both in terms of the standouts lessons that I've gained from listening to people here, but also like just talking as well. Again, just feeling awkward in conversations sometimes, meeting new people. I'd say I'm more of an introvert, but all that kind of means is that I find people fascinating to just like listen and observe, and just people are so interesting. I'd love to be able to get to the point where, again, I don't have to think about what I'm about to say as the person's talking. I get there most times when we do the podcast, particularly in the second half, because we've like warmed up a lot more. When I'm on set, sometimes I worry what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do. And this has really helped me just gain confidence speaking like this. I realized that actually, no, I've got so much fucking stuff to say. So much swear words coming out my mouth too. Like, I've got so much to say. I will go off on tangents and go down the freeway and go down every single different avenue that I can possibly go down, and then be like, where did I start?
Yeah.
And I realized that actually I've been suppressing a lot of that. There's a lot more confidence and strength and security found in myself that I'm able to do that when you don't know what's about to happen and what they're going to say and how it's going to go. That's exciting, and it feeds into our art. Getting emotional.
Inner child coming out.
It feeds into our art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a pleasure, and here's to 6 more months minimum.
Come on, man.
6
Yo,
more
also
What?
shout
Are you guys
out
gonna just leave me?
Maximus.
Shout
Yo,
out Maximus.
Big up Max, man.
I need you to come in for this one, dude.
This is the guy behind the
with us is
camera.
This is the
Hold on.
MVP.
This
I
is
hope
the
you're in
guy.
shot. MVP right here.
MVP.
Thanks, guys.
Right, nice one. That's a wrap.
Boom. Nice. That was a really nice episode.
Sweet
Are we getting a
That
photo of
actually
this
went.
one?
Yeah. Oh shit.